Good morning. This is Nancy Hepker in Melbourne, Arizona. Melbourne, Arizona. Wow. Melbourne, Australia. Hello, Nikki. Thanks for tuning in right on the top of the hour. I am going to make sure everything is working well. Hello, Roseanne. You missed me saying hello from Melbourne, Arizona. I stayed up a little bit too late last night and tried getting up early this morning to see. We supposedly had a partial lunar eclipse of a red blood moon right before sunrise this morning, or right at sunrise, and of course it was completely overcast and not visible. So I went back to bed for a little bit, and I'm still waking up apparently, but we've got things planned out today, so hopefully it should go pretty smoothly. It looks like things are working, so we may go ahead and get started here. Let me move this out of the way. So I actually knew what I was going to do today before last night, and I actually did some planning, which is a nice thing. Good morning, Gladys, or good evening to you. I was just saying it was totally overcast this morning. There was no way to see the partial eclipse, so disappointed, but oh well. That seems to be how my life goes whenever there's an astronomical event in Arizona, you know, bright sunny Arizona. It was almost always cloudy, so I guess I'm just jinxed that way. Anyhow, you probably saw the picture I posted on my page with some of the pieces of Faux Oxide Distress ink cardstock that I'd made up in advance. I've never worked with distress inks or oxide distress inks because Stampin' Up doesn't make them. I think Tim Holtz and Ranger are the ones who tend to make a lot of those. So I don't really know exactly what they're supposed to be able to do, except maybe, I think the distress inks you're supposed to be able to play around with a little more because they stay wet. So I think this technique lets you do that. But here are a few examples, like what I posted in the picture on my page. And I can tell you colors that I used on these. Both of these are Rococo Rose, and then this one has Seaside Spray. I'm going to say Balmy Blue and Pacific Point. And this one is Highland Heather, Old Olive, Pretty Peacock, and either Pacific Point or Blueberry Bushel. At this point I can't remember, I'm sorry. But in the end it doesn't matter I mean, yes, it's good to know what colors you're using, but in the end you'll see we're going to match up to colors in the cardstock that it looks like right now. This is just plain old Whisper White paper, and I'm going to, you see this one just has a little strip because what I do is I work with a larger piece of paper and then I cut it down, and this is the card that I made from that bigger piece. I should tell you, and I will post the woman whose video tutorial I watched to learn how to do this technique. I don't have it written down anywhere, and it's of course not in my head. So, but we're going to make a couple of variations on this card, but first I'm going to show you how to make that background technique. And yeah, it's pretty fun. So on the inside I cut off a strip on here, and then I also cut off a strip on the bottom and from somewhere in there I got a piece that I just stuck in there. And then this is one of the clear faceted jewels, and I just took my black dark Stampin' Blend and colored it in. You could use a black Sharpie, works just fine. And then the ribbon is actually the white, it's silver metallic edge ribbon, and the center of it is white when you get it from them. But again, I took my Stampin' Blend and I just colored it, and it just looks really good. I'm going to lift this up a little bit so you can see it a little bit more. I have noticed on the replay that the video quality seems to be a lot better than the live broadcast. So if you're ever unclear on something, you might go back and take another look. Yeah, the problem with lifting it up is then it's out of the light. So let me try that one more time by doing this. If I can do it without destroying everything. Hi, Wendy. So yeah, I'm really going to do basically the same format, a couple of changes as we go, but basically the same card in multiple iterations. So the way you start with this technique is you take your Whisper White Craft stamp pad, and you want to make sure that it's reasonably juicy. You know, you don't have to go overboard. And if you've ever re-inked one of our regular classic pads, you know the ink is pretty liquid, like almost like water. But the craft ink is very thick, like almost like an acrylic paint. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take the pad and we're just going to smear it all over. And you have to look kind of carefully. It helps that I have these bright lights on here for the video. But you want to get a good coating of this Whisper White all over. And I think, well, if I'm right, that the Distress inks, one of their qualities is that it stays wet and you get to manipulate them a little bit. I think having the base of this sticky wet ink is part of what helps you do that when you're making this. And yes, it's going to get all over your grid paper, which is why I don't use a beautiful new piece for this, but that's okay. I have lots of grid paper. So, hello, Mom and Jenny. I am explaining how I'm making these Faux Distress Oxide ink backgrounds, and the first thing we've done is I started with a piece of paper larger than what my finished piece is going to be, and I've just smeared Whisper White Craft ink all over it. And then I'm doing what the woman whose video I watched did. She had 4 different colors of ink. For this one, I'm going to do shades of green with a pop of purple. So I've got Highland Heather there, Pear Pizzazz, Old Olive, and Mossy Meadow. And I've got sponge daubers for each of them. And then I'm going to start with my pop of color. Man, every time I move, there's more junk on my cardstock. Well, we're just going to ignore that. So, do not be surprised. You're going to discover that, you know, even though I'm going to tap off when I remember, there is going to be probably white ink on my ink pad, but that is not going to hurt anything as we go. I'll do a couple blobs of that Highland Heather. And, you know, you just never know how it's all going to turn out, so you just do what feels good in the moment. I'm going to do some Pear Pizzazz. I'm going to open all these up here. Thanks for sharing, Wendy. Does anyone ever worked with the distress inks? Like I said, Stampin' Up's never had them. I know Tim Holt's line has them. I think they're made by Ranger. But yeah, you can feel, if you've ever done, you know, sponge daubing or sponging, this really glides quite a bit over the paper, more slickly, is that a word? Because of the layer of white ink that's there, I presume. And I'm just putting daubs of color on because we're going to wind up doing some blending and filling, and that's not what I wanted to do at all. I just put my Old Olive dauber in the Mossy Meadow, so guess what? They've just changed which colors they are. And I think because we're doing some blending together, using families of color, like I'm using the pear pizzazz and the Old Olive and the melon, Mossy Meadow. You know, I've talked before about Stampin' Up and their color coordination. Well, you can see the pear pizzazz is just a bit lighter, but the same tone as the Old Olive. And I believe you will see here with the Mossy Meadow that it becomes a bit darker still, but again, in that same tone. Here. We'll do some more pear pizzazz over here. And maybe up in this corner. So what I often like to do is take my lightest color and use it to kind of blend in edges. So Gladys, I saw, at least for like Illinois and Chicago and stuff, big heat coming in. Are you hot where you are too? Would re-inkers work? Probably. But one of the nice things is you get a sort of controlled amount of ink on your sponge dauber with the ink pad. The little bit of white, I don't know how much you can see of the white that's on there. It's right here on the corner, and if I take a paper towel or a piece of printer paper and blot that off, it'll go away. I'm trying to just stay in the same spot. I really don't think it's going to hurt anything, even if I just leave it be. So yeah, I personally am not going to worry about it very much. So I'm just kind of adding in a little bit of ink where I think maybe it would be good. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. I feel like I say that kind of every video. I'm not spending a whole lot of time on this. Okay, so there's that one. And what I'm going to do, Let's kind of smooth that out a little bit, maybe. I don't know what I'm doing. Move the daubers out of the way, close up the ink pads. Again, here are the colors. Pear Pizzazz, Old Olive, Mossy Meadow, shades of the same tone, or tones of the same shade, I don't even know. And Highland Heather. Should have gone to art school, right, Mom? And then what you do is, to get those white speckles on there. See how I've got the white speckles on there? That comes, you just take some water and spritz it on your fingers and then just flick. And give it a moment and you'll see it start to lift up the color. Again, I'm going to try to lift this up so you can see what's going on here. And I just give it a moment and see if I think it's got enough. Can't quite decide what's enough and what's too much, so there we go. I'm going to let that one set and dry for a little bit. So if you want to speed this up, you can take your heat tool and speed it up. But because I have some that I made in advance, I'm not going to do that. I am going to do one more of these. So I'll turn that over. Like I said, I saved some of my messier but not sticky grid paper to use for projects like this that are going to be once and done. Hey Marilyn, it's super hot in Phoenix, I know, for Marilyn and Roseanne and Nikki. I am not missing that at all, even though it got really cold enough here that I'm consistently wearing not just long sleeves, but 2 layers of long sleeves, which was like never in Phoenix, even in the winter. So, again, base of the Whisper White Craft ink all over. I think I've covered it all pretty well. And this time, I feel like I haven't played at all with doing this with some neutrals. So I want to see how that's going to work. I've got Crumb Cake, Sahara Sand, Gray Granite, which is a taupey, beigey gray, and Blushing Bride, which is a gray toned. I've always thought that it had a gray tone to it as a pink. So get these set up. With their daubers. Hi, Chrissy. So, Sahara Sand, Blushing Bride, Crumb Cake, and Gray Granite. And again, I'm going to start with the pop of color. For those of you just joining me, I'm Nancy Hetker, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Melbourne, Australia. And I'm playing around with a Faux Oxide Distress ink technique today. I've already done one sample of a background sheet. And I'm working pretty fast here on another. See what we get. It's fun. If you like to play with color and you like to see color move and swirl together and stuff, this is pretty fun, I think. So this one I'm playing with some neutrals. This is Sahara Sand. And let's do some more up here. Even that out a little bit. And we'll do some crumb cake. Yeah, I saw this on Pinterest. It's an American, I want to say it was an American demonstrator. I'll put a link to her video so you can see. I'm just really copying what she did, but I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. See what we can make here. And again, if you can see, there's white splotches from the sponge dauber picking up this white ink. She suggested that just blotting it with some printer paper or paper towel or something would clean it right off. I think it's little enough that I'm not going to worry about it too much. If I get going and decide that it is a problem, you can always put re-inker back on it. Here's the gray granite. Yeah, very taupey gray, but still with a brown, definitely a brown undertone compared to basic gray or smoky slate. So I was saying that underlay of the Whisper White, it makes the paper slicker. Yeah. Almost like when you're sponging on glossy paper, and it just lets the ink move a little more, I think, when you're blending. Come back here with some more Blushing Bride in here. So, whoop, wow, muscle memory is a bad thing sometimes. That's not what I want. I want this one. So have you guys been playing with anything particularly fun this week? Oh, this is just regular Whisper White. And yeah, there's no reason that it wouldn't work on the thick, but there's no reason to either. So yeah, I think that's better, a little darker on the Blushing Bride. Use that to do some more blending in here. Sahara Sand. We'll do a little blending with the Sahara Sand too. So I'm using the lighter colors to kind of blend in some of these heavier edges a bit, maybe. Or I'm just making a mess, I don't know which. But the neat thing about this is you really can't tell what you've got in a lot of ways while you're making it. It's kind of a work of faith, if you will, that something interesting is going to turn out. So I'm just going to close up these ink pads, get them out of the way. And obviously you could use Very Vanilla too if you have an excess of that. It doesn't matter because you're covering the whole thing. But either the Whisper White or the Very Vanilla, they have that really smooth finish to them, which is also what you want. So the other way, if you don't want to get your hands all wet, I don't know why you wouldn't, but I've also done it this way. Just flick. Oh, playing with the pigment crystals. Yeah, I got them the other week, and I need to pull them out and play with them too. I'm doing a class on them later this year. So this is just water in a spritz bottle. Stampin' Up sells spritz bottles. I'll be honest, I don't care for them very much. I don't think they spritz very well. So I've got these that have lens cleaner solution in them, and they spritz great. So I just rinse them out really well and reuse them for this. Ooh, I'm really liking that, actually. I think that's plenty of water. Okay, dry my hand off here a little bit. Yeah, you didn't get your, oh, July, yeah, no, because they'll just be going in the mail, like, now, the July paper pumpkin kits. Yeah, we're going to set that aside to dry and see what comes out. Okay, so, again, here are the ones that I did. I'm going to just get rid of that altogether. And maybe this one, too. Okay. Gone. Here are these two, and I'm going to figure out how to cut them down into bases, and what to highlight and what not to. And you don't have to keep any particular side, so I'm just going to get rid of that. I'm going to measure over 9.5 centimeters, which would be like 3 3/4. I think for the US folks, I'm doing basically 3.75 by 5 layer, and for Australia, I'm doing 9.5 by, what is it, 13.8. That gets 13.8, 13.9, some such. There we go. So I like that. I will show you, because that's got pretty good balance there with the purple and everything else. So I'm happy with that. And we'll see what we do on this one. I think we'll go, what happens if we go 9.5 there? Yep. Okay, so I've got some scraps I could play with if I want to, add to the inside of my card. Okay, and then again, I told you basically what we're going to do is make a couple variations of this card. So I have this large flower image, magnolia image from Good Morning Magnolia, mounted on my Stamparatus. And I like to have a stamp case under there. It's just the right height. And I'm a lefty, and apparently I can't think upside down this morning, so there we go. Keep those magnets apart. I do have it marked on there. Nope, nope, nope. It's going to go this way. All right? Yeah. Some Memento Tuxedo black ink, and we'll stamp. Do I ever use the strips? Yes. On this card, I put a strip on the bottom of the inside. You could also do one along there if you wanted. You could do a wider strip. You could make a whole other, actually I was thinking about this one of evening it up a little bit and just having that as a strip on a Whisper White card base, maybe with another layer with that rich raspberry layer underneath it, and then a white card base, and then, but maybe stamping it first with either that image or the leaves or something from a totally different set all down here. Yeah, I've got ideas. So when I do a blog post on this, I'll show you some other things that I do. I'm not going to make all 4 of these into cards today. I'm trying to decide if I think that's dark enough. Whoops. Yes, apparently I do, because I moved it off the magnet. So there we go. Sometimes it's not the position of the ink blotches, but the kind of the direction of the water spatters that make me decide which way it needs to be up. And that's the case on this one. Oh, it's very magnetic because it's not a photopolymer stamp. I don't have that foam pad under there, and the magnets are very strong, which is good. But keep them away from each other so they don't snap together and break. They will do that in a heartbeat. And if you aren't careful, they'll catch your fingers in between them, and man, that would hurt. Okay. I don't know if any of you have been following along some of those Stampin' Up! Demonstrators who went to on the Greek Isles incentive trip. Wow, I like that one too. I like them all. They're just cool how they turn out. Okay, so we're done with that for now. Get that out of the way. And then the next thing to do is figure out how to layer all of these. So I went through and pulled out a couple of colors that are in them. So the question is, do I layer on white and then on one or two of the colors? Or do I layer on a color and then on a white card base? There is the question, huh? So I could do this one. Let's try this one on all colors without white. What do you think? You like the white behind? Yeah, I do too. That's how I did this one. Blue and white, you said, huh? Well, I didn't show you the pink and white too. That's a possibility. But no, I like the blue and white. Yep, I think you're right. Okay, so we'll do it much like this one. Cut my score card base. Go. Okay, so we said like so. Should we make it a cattywampus one? What do you think? Cattywampus? Or straight? I think straight, just 'cause. Yeah, so the only white ink Stampin' Up has is the craft ink. So, sorry, I need to grab my glue. So, if you have white from Stampin' Up, it is craft ink. I may have to grab a new glue. We'll see. Oh, there we go. Sorry, can't chat and get things on straight at the same time. I'm going to put a little bit of this, what do they call it? Polka dot tool ribbon. Down here, a good old Scotch tape trick. If for some reason you don't have Scotch tape, right at hand at your craft desk. Tear and tape, and then stick this down, or even tape runner snail will work just fine. Okay, that's going to go on there, and then I'm going to put a sentiment on here. This is a big thank you, and I think what I'm going to do is this. You are the best. 'Cause who doesn't want to be the best, right? And I just put a foam mat under there. Usually with sentiments I don't worry about it too much, but because this one's pretty solid, bold, wide in its font, I think it'll stamp better this way. Sorry, dimensionals and paper scissors. Yep, okay. And anything else happening with you crafters? If you're in the Melbourne area, I have my monthly class coming up on Saturday at 1. You'd be welcome to come join us. We're making 5 cards, and I actually have them all planned out already, which I am amazing myself with how together I am last week in this. And we do 5 cards, and we have a break for afternoon tea. It's $30 Australian, and it's a lot of fun. So I just cut that little point off there, and you'll see I stole that from the woman whose video I watched. That's okay. She used a different shape than I did. I'll take another length of this. Oh no! Oh, there they are. Paper snips off the edge of the desk. Just slide that under there. There's one card. And I'll put another piece of white in there, and I may add, for this one I might cut like that strip and stick it on there. We'll see. We'll see what I wind up doing. So there's that one. And then we get to do the whole same process again for this one. Stick with me if you want. Let's see. I think definitely some Highland Heather in there. Question is, well, I think I'm liking this. Yeah. Favors for the baby shower. Yeah. When is she due, Jenny? And the truck ride die. I'd love to see that. I don't have that. Thanks, Roseanne. Thanks for tuning in. September 19th, the baby's due. Wow. Good. Yeah, so that one's going to go there. So we'll do the same thing again. So you see, you can sit down and have a lot of fun playing with all different colors and then come back once they're dry and have fun playing with the picking out colors and assembling the cards themselves. Just set that aside for a moment and do another sentiment. This one I don't think we need the pad. I think this will fit on here. This one's from Healing Hugs. I'm going to do this Get Well Soon, I think. Yep, I thought that would fit right there. Okay. I think this one I'm going to try trimming where I want it and then lining it up. The unicorn stamp. Yeah, I don't have that one. Okay, to ribbon, to not ribbon, what color ribbon? These are the questions. I have this old olive ribbon. So this is where you get to see some of the thought process come in. Oh, come here. Behave. The die is from the Stitched Nested Labels dies. I finally learned the name of it. It's cumbersome. And they have been my go-to since I got them, I think. I kind of like that. What do you think? Can you see the double bit? Oh yeah, you can. Yeah. Because my other option is to take some white and color it purple. But I like that. Okay. So I'll cut off a snippet of that. Start taping that down. Yes, you could even use black twine. They discontinued like all of the baker's twine except for Whisper White and the Sahara Sand Night of Navy that coordinates with the Come Sail Away suite. And I'm down to the very end of my basic black twine. So I'm kind of guarding that one. Not a lot. I have used it recently, but I wanted to see. Longer. So you might see as I'm making this bow, I know bows are a challenge for a lot of us. So I have not tightened up this knot yet. I'm working on straightening and pulling and evening a lot before I pull that knot. Still not totally tight, but tightened up some to hold it. And now I'm going to pull it tight. And people chuckle when I say this, but I really, really encourage people who tell me they're having trouble with bows to, when you're watching a TV show or something, when you're just, yeah, TV show or a movie or some such, sorry, more adhesive, to just sit there with a piece of scrap ribbon, you know, a good size one, different kinds of ribbon too, or twine or whatever, and just sit there and make bows and fiddle with them till you get them to how you like them looking. And then, so I'm going to kind of fold that over on itself to make it a little narrower. Stick it on the knot. Hello. The underside of the knot. There we go. Stick it right in there. But just play with making the bows. Make a bow, get it how you like it, pull it out, do it again. And that, you know, practice really is the thing. So that one, I just doubled up the ribbon and worked with 2 strands to make the bow. And there it is. So we have these two bases, which I will make into cards a little bit later, and look for my blog post sometime, probably next week, showing all of the cards that I made and how I did them. And then we also have 1, 2, 3 cards, all done with this Faux Oxide Distress Ink technique. So I hope you enjoyed watching that and learning how to do that. I hope you'll play with this technique. It's very fun. 4 colors of ink, 3 of which, this one, okay, 3 that are pretty close together in terms of shades. Remember, this one I did with Balmy Blue, Seaside Spray, and Pacific Point, I believe. This one is Mary Merlot, Rich Razzleberry, Rococo Rose, and then Mango Melody is the yellow. This one, Rococo Rose, is the pop of color. This one, I pulled out colors from the Peacock, not Pretty Peacock, that's one of the colors, but the Peacock Suite. So it's Old Olive, Pretty Peacock. The blue, I think, is Blueberry Bushel, although once it was all done, it looks a lot like this, which I'm pretty sure was Pacific Point, but both of them may have been Blueberry Bushel. I can't remember because it was last week. And then Highland Heather for the pop of color. Yeah, so it's very fun to play with the colors and see how they swirl together and play off each other. The Whisper White underneath the craft ink makes them blend together more easily, and then I think that's what lets the white bleed through very easily when you spritz it. You just flick it with some water. And you can see some I did less, some I did more. You can play and figure out what you like. Some I got big splotches on, which I don't like quite as much as the smaller splotches, but it all comes out to be an interesting thing. So have fun, have a play. Please, please, please send me pictures of what you make. I love seeing them. If you say it's okay, I'll even put them up on my blog to show them off. It occurs to me that these don't have anything in the centers, which is kind of a shame. So let's see what we can do about that. If you stick with me here, we'll see about putting a few things there. These are the Noble Peacock. That's the name of the suite. So I've got some Noble Peacock rhinestones, and I think we'll use some of these on this one. I should get my take a pick tool. Maybe we'll go with the bigger one there first. I can just hear my mom. You're ruining it now. She probably doesn't like the bow either, huh, Mom? We tease each other. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just playing now. I don't know. Let's do a couple do you think? Who did an angry face? Is that my mom? I don't even know if she's still watching. Can you see them? Again, I think the quality of the picture is better on the replay, so. Yeah, I don't know if they're better without or with or what. But this one may be a little too regular flower-y in the center there. We'll see. I may pull them off again. Anyhow, have a great week. Reach out to me anytime. I will talk to you later. Oh, without the green bow, it looked like the flower is peeking over a fence. Well, that's kind of true. Maybe I'll pull that off too. We'll see. Take a look on my blog, see what I come up with. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.